Good afternoon, everyone. This is the October 7th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. Ms. Town, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Snyder. John Murphy.
Present.
John Brown.
Present.
Chris Brown.
Present.
Jeannie Sickinger.
Present.
All right. I will note that the mayor has joined the meeting.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Did you get that message?
All right. There is no old business. The first item on new business is a application from Peter A. Saba and Thomas E. Tepe Jr., representing Pond Realty Company, submitting both the preliminary and final plans for a plan unit development of 3.35 acres and for the proposed removal of requirements as set forth in Section 3 of Ordinance 28-2014 and Chapter 1155, seeking to modify and remove the prohibited uses set forth in Section 2B, to wit, automotive service repair, and Section 2H, to wit, sale of new motor vehicles, in Ordinance 28.2014 for property located on the southwest corner of Montgomery Road and Lexington Avenue. This is property located there by the Wasson Way, commonly referred to as the Yards. Just for clarification from the applicant, you are only seeking to modify Section 2B, removing the automotive service repair prohibition, as well as Section 2H, sale of new motor vehicles, from that ordinance. Is that correct?
Allow me to confirm. It would be 2A,
2A?
B,
I have 2H. So you're removing 2A?
A, B, E, and H.
So you would like to have a fuel station on that property?
We'd like to have a recharging station because
Okay.
part of the new class of Volkswagens are electric, and that's a big initiative of theirs.
Okay, I don't see an application to remove 2A.
May we amend our application to include that?
I would defer to the board. Right now, I only have before us 2B, automotive service repair, and 2H, sale of new motor vehicles. Is that the only, other than the automotive recharging station, is that the only amendments you want to the ordinance?
A, B, E to the extent it applies, and H.
And E being automotive truck rental agency. Again, this is not in your original application.
I apologize.
So we need some clarity as to exactly, specifically what you're asking the board to do, because there's two parts to this.
Understood.
The first part is to review your PUD preliminary and final plan. That is an administrative task that we have guided by our code as well as the ordinance that was adopted in 2014. The other request is your amendments that you've asked for, which so far they've expanded from requesting 2B and 2H to include 2A, fuel and recharging stations, and 2E, automotive truck and rental agency. Is there any other amendments that you would like to make to the ordinance?
No, sir.
Okay. Having said that, we will begin the public hearing. I'd ask the applicant to come forward and present their evidence. We will allow the applicant to present, then we will have questions from the board, and then we will open it up to any public that is here.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Tepe. I have the pleasure to represent the applicant this morning. There's always a certain level of stress when you're representing a client, but having your grandfather stare at you while you give the presentation is also a little different level of stress that, frankly, I don't get very often. I want to thank the chair very much. We apologize if we weren't explicitly clear in the subsequent email that we had sent to Tim Gary. Our application is replete with those particular uses that we're asking that be approved. So I appreciate the chair's and the commission's patience in allowing or considering this amendment. Again, my name is Tom Tepe. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. To my right is Richard Joseph with the Joseph Auto Group, and to the left is Steve Fitchell, who's the project architect. I'm going to give an overview here. Steve is certainly the detail guy when it comes to the nuts and bolts of the site plan and the other things. And then, of course, Mr. Joseph can answer any questions as it relates to the who, what, where, why, and how of why they're undertaking this task. You know, they're very excited about this project. They currently operate a property there at the corner of Montgomery and Clendy. They don't own that property. They are under very, very strict orders from Volkswagen to redo the dealership. That current dealership meets none of their current standards, and the Joseph standards are very high. If you've seen their other dealerships on Coleraine and Montgomery, they hold themselves as being a first-class operator and willing to invest significant sums of money into their product so that everyone has a great experience. This is a 3.3 acre tract of property that we're seeking to have approval on. It's been vacant for, you would all know better than I do, decades, right? It's an underutilized piece of property, and it's zoned GBD, PUD. And we understand that there was an ordinance in 14, and we're well aware of that. We were made aware of it as part of the process. We met with Mayor Schneider. We've met with Eric DiNardo, whose ward this lies. We've met with Mark Reeves.
Sir, before you talk, can we swear you in? And anybody who wants to speak, can we have them swear in? So if you
Sure.
can raise your right hand. So what you will be saying will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. Please continue.
I'm a lawyer. I'm not giving testimony. I'm giving arguments, but I appreciate the process.
Sure.
Lost my train of thought. So we're aware of this ordinance. We were made aware of it after about our second meeting, after we met with Mark Reeves and the mayor. And so we understand what you guys have to consider. And I don't know the reasonings behind the specific exclusion of these related uses. I can only speculate, but that does us no good. But what I can tell you is we believe that the city of Norwood will be incredibly proud with the first-class product that will be placed on this property. It will be a significant upgrade to what exists today. It will be complementary to not only the area that it lies, but also the Wasson Way. There are other hosts of uses that are permitted on this property that weren't otherwise excluded. Drive-through restaurants, a hotel, big box retail, grocery stores, health clubs, a church, a parking garage, or a transit station. We submit to you, those are permitted as of right. We submit to you what is being proposed today and hopefully approved ultimately by council will make everyone very, very proud. Will be a wonderful addition to this highly underutilized asset in the city. But it also, as you'll hear, there's some attention that was given to this south side. When we met with the mayor and we met with Councilman DiNardo, it was made very clear to us the Wasson Way is a very important aspect of where we are. And so special attention was given to this southern boundary. Knowing that that southern boundary is in the city of Cincinnati, we thought it would be a good idea to take certain steps to go ahead and just try to do what we can to make it integrated into that. And I think you'll see in your packet, there's certainly landscaping that goes along that southern boundary. Knowing that we would have to obtain approval from, whether it be the Wasson Way Parks Committee, whether it be the city of Cincinnati, whomever it is, we're committed to diligently pursuing and receiving approval to allow for additional landscaping in that area, to allow for a bike hose to be placed in that area, to allow a bike rack to be placed in that area, and then also for a water fountain with commensurate dog bowl underneath. Seems like everybody has a dog these days, and seems like it'd be a good one. We will commit to do those things, provided that we're given the approval from whoever the permitting or authorizing city or agency is. I won't get too much into the highlights. I'll let Steve get in there and answer your questions. It's roughly a 30,000 square foot dealership with supporting parking and landscaping. It's really cool. It's really neat. Hopefully you've had a chance to experience their other dealerships and know the kind of quality investment that they will put in there. And like I said, they have to move. They don't own the property. They have to upgrade per Volkswagen. Something you learn as representing car dealerships is the car dealer, the brand, the Volkswagen, they hold all the cards as the franchisor. They dictate where, when, and how, and they absolutely have to do it. So they're very hopeful that this can be done on this piece of property, that they can continue their longstanding relationship with the city of Norwood, continue to be a productive taxpayer within the city, but there are really no other alternatives within the city other than this one. And so we're asking that you strongly consider this and strongly consider giving a positive recommendation. So I'll turn it over to questions to Steve if you have any on the specific details, or to Mr. Joseph on anything else that you may have.
So that concludes your presentation, and you're opening up the architect and the owner for questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do we have any questions from either the owner or the architect at this point?
Chris, I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
In reading this, it says this covers the area from Lexington Avenue north. It does not say from the South Corporation line north. So you have a street and then you have the right-of-way. So how does this ordinance that says Lexington North cover that property?
Are you referring to the caption, Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Okay. If you read the caption, it describes an area bounded by Lexington Avenue to the north, Montgomery Road to the west, Corporation Line to the south, and Owlsmere Avenue to the east.
Correct.
So those are the boundary areas. It goes on to further describe the actual area that is being rezoned by the parcel numbers down here in section 1. So that identifies both the boundary of the area and specifically the identity of the parcels that were being rezoned to the PUD with the GBD with the PUD overlay.
It is just the south side of Lexington, not the
Correct.
north side.
So this ordinance was put in place specifically for this piece of property.
That is correct.
With others.
But to me,
It
the
goes all
clarity
way
of
down
it,
to the book, I can't remember.
The school
name.
outfitters.
Pool outfitter.
Yeah, including the parking lots that were put in for Duke at a later time.
Correct. And those are bounded by Ellesmere, Lexington, now we'll call it Wasson Way or the Southern Corp line, and Montgomery Road. And I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, I believe they purchased the property in 2017.
So in 2017, they purchased the property, and this ordinance had been in place for 3 years.
And I can tell you, Mr. Chairman, they were unaware of the ordinance.
Okay.
As we met with various members of the city, it wasn't brought to our attention until maybe
What-
the second meeting or third meeting that we had with representatives.
And when
It's
was
not-
that? When was that second or third meeting? Just to give us a timeline.
We met with the mayor, we met with Mark Reeves, I believe, first.
And when was that?
That was in where are we at? Was it August, perhaps?
August of 2020.
Earlier this year.
Oh, it was?
Okay.
It was just when we started into this, so it was like,
Hey, Chris. You can hard charge.
beginning of summer.
Pardon me? Everything is, clearly to screw everything up. So, yeah, we met, I don't remember the exact dates, but we met with Mark Reeves, we
Okay.
met with the mayor, we met with Eric DiNardo at the coffee shop, and it wasn't brought to our attention, even after we met with Eric, he was unaware of the ordinance, and it was brought to his attention, forwarded to us, which we think Mark Reeves for forwarding to us. The Josephs were unaware of it, and it's not readily accessible, like the zoning code is.
Right.
I'm just saying it is what it is. They didn't know about it until maybe after our third meeting. I think that my chronology is correct.
But it was safe to say it was in 2020 that they became aware of it.
Yeah, for sure, yes.
Okay. Very good.
I have questions for Mr. Joseph.
Yes, sir.
One of the things I'd like to commend you on is being a good corporate citizen and community member of the city of Norwood for many, many years. You've been involved in a lot of different charity organizations, and I really respect what you've brought in years past to the city. And I think it goes without saying that the city has had a good relationship with the dealership that was there for years, whether that was under your control or under other control. Doesn't really make a difference to me, quite frankly, because it's always been a pretty good community member for us. What does having a dealership in the city of Norwood like that, a Volkswagen dealership in the city of Norwood, bring to the Joseph Group, and why is it important to stay in the city of Norwood to your organization?
So to start with, well, if I might state my name, Richard Joseph, and it's Joseph. All right. First of all, Mayor, thank you for the kind comments. We do believe in, obviously, supporting and reinvesting in all the communities that we do business in. As far as staying local to Norwood, there are particular regulations in Ohio as far as dealerships moving outside of 1 mile of their existing point of business. And so for us to move from our current location at the corner of Montgomery and Clenay, for us to move, we can only move within a radius of 1 mile of there, which extremely limits where we can move. So that's the first consideration. Secondly, this dealership's been in Norwood for, I would say, at least 30 years that I know of, in one fashion or another. And it's built up a lot of equity in this area. We would love to stay nearby in Norwood and to help support Norwood for all the other business reasons associated with that.
Okay. What, we talked about some changes and some other parts that need to be in there. The fuel recharging station, part of it, my understanding is that there's a requirement for you to have a recharging station at a Volkswagen dealership now?
Yes, so as Mr. Tepe just pointed out, so Volkswagen dictates down to the last piece of tile and the last brick how the dealership is built, and they're requiring particular charging stations to be in every facility to get to continue to have access to their vehicles that they're coming out with, their electric vehicles in the future, and they are expecting a full lineup of electric vehicles. And to be compliant with Volkswagen, we have to have a certain number of charging stations. I believe that number is going to be somewhere in the range of 5 throughout the dealership as part of the sales and service. It's not going to be a separate charging station. At least the plans aren't to have a separate charging station facility. It's as part of the sales and service business.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
If I can explain where they are? and
Sure,
what we're
please.
doing.
Thank you. Do you have my name, Carrie? Steve Pitchell, Pitchel.
Perfect.
I think there are 5, but most of them are inside the building. So there's, if you have a site plan there, you can park in front of the building. The customer can park there. There'll be a charging station. A charging station is basically on a post with a, looks like a gas pump, but it's a, plug. And a customer can pull up there if he already has an electric vehicle and plug his car in there. It's right there in front of the store. There'll be one around the back side of the store as well that more for the service department to use for a car that's outside. It needs to be charged before they can bring it inside. Then inside the store, there's a couple of locations where there are quick chargers and things like that, so when they're working on the cars. But the electric program for Volkswagen is big. They're talking about, how many models in the next 5 years? I can't even remember, but one is coming out in months, in just a few months.
At a minimum, 4 to 5 vehicles in the next 5 years will be released by Volkswagen.
So it's, every car, I do a lot of car dealerships, different brands, all your brands now, they're putting them in. I mean, you have to do this because everybody's coming out with electric vehicles. So it's nothing obtrusive. Like I said, it's just one thing sitting there in front of the store. No more obtrusive than a handicap sign that would be in front of the, where you park. So.
Okay. The other discussion was E, which Mr. Tepe had asked to be added, which is automotive truck rental agency. Is there rental? Is that? And maybe that's a question going back to the chair. Does that include leasing of vehicles? Is that what that?
No, this would be your standard Hertz dollar budget. So that's why we're,
If I can clarify, although as part of our operations, there are we have a rental department. It is not a standalone Hertz, et cetera. It's when you bring your vehicle in for service, you get what we call a loaner car, which is technically in a rental pool in the business. Once again, it's part of our business. It's not a separate rental truck and an automotive business itself.
And another reason, Mr. Chairman, if I may, under section 111116, the definition of automobile truck rental agency means the use of any building, land area, or other premises for the leasing of automobiles, vans, and/or single-axle trucks or trailers. So we just wanted to make sure, obviously leasing is a fairly large component of a car dealership.
of course.
I think that answers what I was thinking. Maybe the other question I would have is, what changes were made from the time that you started working on these plans with the building department and sort of looking at it? I know that you made some changes knowing the Wasson Way Trail and the input, some of the input that came in from there. I don't know that it really overcomes some of the doubters, but I suppose that the water fountain and the doggy station and the air recharging station, sort of a service station for bicycles, was something that you changed. What about landscape changes? What other changes were made there?
We did, I don't have those drawings. You have the packet of plans. I think on, maybe towards the back, maybe in the back, there's renderings, yeah, all the way in the back, that are particularly about Wasson Way. And there are trees shown there. There are no trees there now. I think there may be one tree there now. And so along that side of the, these aren't numbered, so I can't really, but you can see the trees there along the side of the building and some bushes and things like that around the concrete area that's out there now with the benches. But that's where we proposed to put the bike rack and the service area and the fountain. So there would be trees along the south side of the building. As you get down the path towards the buildings, trees along the south side of the building to kind of screen that a little bit.
And to help answer that question, when we first purchased the property, Wasson Way was still kind of in discussions and in design. And as it's progressed over the past couple of years, beautifully, might I add, and the foot traffic it's getting daily, as you all know, is wonderful. As it's progressed, the importance of it has kind of bubbled to the surface, and it was brought back to us, as you point out, the importance of that and the aesthetics of that, and we are 100% on board with maintaining the highest aesthetics possible. Landscaping, as you pointed out, the different functions that for bikers and pedestrians, as well as landscaping and the different foliage that Mr. Pitchell just pointed out.
Just so you know that if you're looking at these renderings, that is not what the building looks like. It's not a blank white wall on the front of the building. That's what the building looks like. Okay. If you didn't know that already, I don't know why you didn't get that on the rendering. Yeah, when we laid the building out, laid the site out, we did not have Wasson Way. In fact, it was different. They had changed it somewhere. It changed somewhere between the time we started on this thing and then Wasson Way was built, or the bike path was put in. It came out different.
Matter of fact, we had early discussions with some of the members of the Wasson Way Committee. I received a couple of calls personally from one or two people I know that asked, what are the plans, this, that, and the other, and just like we are now, we said, we're committed to making sure it's, it's done right and it looks good.
Okay.
Are there any other questions to the applicants?
I do have a question.
Yes.
About the entrance to the facility. Is it going to be on Montgomery Road? I noticed that there's several on Lexington, but is the main entrance going to be on Montgomery Road?
The main entrance will be on Montgomery because the way Volkswagen has dictated our service department is that Volkswagen's building is such that the front has kind of the entryway to walk through as well as the service entry. And that's where the service entry will come from. It would be, they rejected and just didn't see the feasibility of having that entrance any other spot, such that if you had to drive around, all around the building, it would just create a traffic nightmare.
My concern is the entrance, and Xavier University has purchased the rights to Wasson Way. So it's going to be meandering down across Montgomery Road through Xavier. That's going to be a nightmare with bicyclists, walkers, runners, animals, and then a dealership entrance. How's that going to work out?
So.
That's
show
pretty
me-
close to one another.
Steve, show me where it meanders through.
So here's the bike
Wasson
path,
Way, right?
and then your entrance.
Yes.
And I think what she means is the bike path is going to continue across Montgomery Road.
Correct.
Are they putting a light there or anything?
We're still working on that, but this is, I don't know how that could possibly work with the car dealership entrance right next to where bicycles and pedestrians are going to be.
That entrance is just north of, our entrance would be just north of the Wasson Way. I guess the crossover that you're saying that they, across the street is what you're
Correct.
referring to?
Dana and Montgomery. It's going to be closer to your entrance to your dealership. to Jeff.
It's up to Dana and Montgomery?
Where the trail is going to be, it's going to go meander through Xavier University back by Listerman's.
Right, but as far as,
No, it's crossing Montgomery right there. Across Montgomery, not at Dana, it's right where.
Before you get
right,
to
where it
Dana.
currently is. So it's straight across, which is why they have the cutout that kind of, you have to basically turn, if you're coming towards the west, you're going straight, and then you have to do kind of almost a U-turn where they, to basically have a stoppage before there, because they didn't want you just driving onto Montgomery Road.
Right.
And
Usually morning.
just to kind of put it, I guess, how I would see it working, I don't know how it would work any different than the current traffic there. I guess, to me, the one positive aspect is if they're going to be turning into our dealership, at least they'll be slowing down there versus traffic that wouldn't be slowing down for pedestrians there. I mean, it's, I guess to some degree, traffic is traffic right there.
I don't know about traffic being traffic because there's so many people who use Wasson Way.
Oh, I understand that. I agree with you.
I think there
It's
needs to be a
fabulous.
solution. I think that's something that really needs to be discussed, and a solution needs to be put in play.
That's the only curb cut on that block between Lexington and Dana. So we have an intersection at Lexington and Montgomery, and we have an intersection, a lighted intersection at Montgomery and Dana. So with all the people coming in to your dealership, not only are they dealing with two intersections by roadway, they're dealing with a Wasson Way intersection, which is less than 5 feet from that entrance. So anybody, it's not so much the cross traffic along Montgomery Road, it's anybody who wants to exit the bike path and go north on Montgomery Road, you're going to have a lot of foot traffic going back and forth by that entrance.
I apologize. Is that what you were referring to?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant crossing Montgomery.
No, I'm concerned about the congestion there and the heavy traffic. It's going to be,
I mean, is there heavy traffic going in and out of the dealership?
Yeah, so right now, from a service customer standpoint, there's maybe 40 or so, give or take, I could give you specific numbers, 40 or so cars coming in and out for service on a daily basis, 40, over, call it 8 hours.
One of the reasons I brought up what uses are allowed to go there as of right, you know, a health club, you know, retail, a hotel, a church, a parking garage, those are significant traffic generators. And, you know, not to get all legalese, you know, a parcel is allowed to have access to the right-of-way that it abuts. So this parcel is entitled to a curb cut on Montgomery Road. And what we're saying is, yes, there will be cars. Of course there will be. It's a car dealership. But I think there's a notion that these car dealerships generate significant traffic. And I think the suggestion is that in reality, it's not the same. It's not as intense as retail and other uses that can go there as a matter of right. It's just, right.
So another thing that happens at a car dealership, customer comes in, test drives a car. So cars go in and out that way. But that would all happen towards the back where the cars are stopped. And the customer would come in, they'd get in the car with a dealer, and they go out into Lexington, then go to Montgomery Road and go that way. So they wouldn't, that entrance on Montgomery Road is more for, like Richard said, the service customer coming in and driving straight into the building there.
And that's a good point too. The way we have constructed the traffic pattern of the dealership is that there's an outflow from the service department towards the back of the lot and then out the Lexington side.
In fact, you won't see hardly any cars going.
It would avert some of that traffic you're talking about.
There's hardly any cars going out here. Because even once you come in, you see on that drawing, those two doors to your right, on the right side of the plan, you see those two kind of glass doors. That's where a customer would drive straight in off Montgomery, into there, drop their car off for service. Then that car is taken by the tech and goes straight out the back to the back lot. It never comes back out to the front. It never goes out to Montgomery Road that way.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, so the other curb cuts on Lexington, and there's two, there's actually three, there's one at the far end. Those are really, well, not more important, but as important to have those so that they can access in and out that way. And I think most customers, if they're not bringing a car for service, are going to come in off of Lexington anyways.
Mr. Brown.
I can't, because my glasses keep fogging up, I can't read this. On the plans, what is the distance from the, I guess it'd be the north side of the Wasson Way to the curb cut?
That's this right here. That's basically that area right there, that dead space. That's, right now there's a billboard.
That's probably about 30 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Are you referring, Mr. Brown, are you referring to the entrance to Wasson Way and the curb cut on Montgomery Road?
The north side of the Wasson Way,
Okay.
the entrance to that,
Yes.
and to where their curb cut would be.
And you're saying that's 30 feet? Are you,
Yeah, so I'm looking on this kind of a blow-up plane in there too, from there to there. Right?
Yes.
There's a billboard kind of in
Right.
between there.
correct?
Yeah. It's about 15.
There may be a better drawing there.
If you go to the one that says L101, you can see it a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Chris,
Yes,
I have a question.
certainly, please.
I don't see a problem with your driveway. The bigger issue is, what is Wasson Way doing? And they're gonna do the same thing on Madison at the other end. You can't, obviously, you're just not gonna be walking out into traffic. There's gotta be some calming, or these people are gonna go up to the light and cross back over into Cincinnati back to the way. Do you know of any plans for what they're gonna do there? I mean, put
Wasson
another
Way?
crosswalk that close to a light or pedestrian lights?
Got those bollards in there, but that's it
Yeah,
right
but-
now.
What I don't know, and you were alluding to this, is I don't know what the traffic pattern of Wasson Way is once it hits Montgomery. I don't know if it goes south, I don't know if it goes north, I don't know if it goes straight across.
Has to go straight
It's gonna
across
go
on the old
straight.
railroad right of way.
That is the plan, straight across.
That's-
So, right now, there's, I guess the proper term is these ballards.
Yeah.
That are there to stop anyone from just driving straight out.
Right, but just getting across my wife and I bike all the time on it, and that would be a concern when we get to Madison. The trail extends across Madison, but you just can't do that. I mean, you're gonna get hit.
Right.
There's got to have a lot of signage and
There have
stripes on
to,
the road
yeah.
and
And probably those, I would
They'll have to do something, but that would be a bigger concern to me with, turn into a car dealership, I do it now when you turn into a dealership, and pedestrians you yield to, so.
There is a place where the bike trail, further east out in Columbia Township near the Newtown Bridge in the 50 West Brewery, there is a place where they have accounted for where that does cross a state highway, which is the same thing as Montgomery Road. And they have received grants. Columbia Township, David Kubicki is the one who spearheaded that, grants for that flashing lights, and
Okay.
it's actually quite something, and it seems to be working pretty well. It's not too dissimilar than crossing Montgomery Road on bikes. That's what they've done to account for that. Just as an FYI. if you're
All right,
looking
thank
for-
you.
Plus, that's wider than Montgomery Road at that point. That US 50 would be
Yes.
wider at that point than Montgomery Road.
Yeah, it is 2 lanes both way.
Is that better, or
I don't know if it's better or worse, but you're correct, Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better?
There is an island
You got more
on,
to cross what he's talking about on US 50. You got,
Yeah,
there is an island, you go to one place and then you can go across again.
but US 50, you can also, people blast down US 50. They shouldn't be, and granted, we all know Montgomery Road gets its speed demons too, so.
Everybody gets a speed limit, Mayor.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
I have one more. Did, Pond Realty, did you purchase that piece of property that's by the billboard that you're talking about, between Wasson Way? There's like a little sliver there. Do you guys own that one?
That is part of the property that
Okay,
was on it,
right.
yes.
Any other questions from the board? I do have one question. Can you further elaborate on how this proposal is a pedestrian-oriented design?
Pedestrian oriented.
Right. You're in your application, you said the requested modification seeks to promote and permit maximum development potential, high-quality architecture, and pedestrian-oriented design.
We're talking about the south side with the additions to the bike trail.
Okay. So that
It
is,
is a car dealership, right? You understand?
okay,
Not too many people walk their car dealership.
You must really need a car.
right.
It's happened.
That'd be a good customer.
And how far back from the Montgomery Road right-of-way is the building setback?
Oh, and it's, obviously, it varies because it's on an angle. What's that, not any? Gee, what last year, because I can't remember. About 150 feet.
Okay. And in front of that is parking for the service and the,
So there's the customer parking closest to the building,
okay,
and then probably on both sides of that lane is customer parking. And then as you get closer to Montgomery Road, there would be vehicles displayed there for new cars.
okay.
Citing new electric vehicles and things like that.
Certainly. Is there any other questions from the board?
We've also shown the landscaping there as well. If you look on that L101, you can see all the trees that we're showing out on Montgomery Road and then on Lexington. And then as well as some low shrubbery and planting and things like that down at the ground level.
All right.
Car dealers don't like trees, but we put them there anyway.
Is there any other further questions from the board?
That doesn't sound good. That's not what you want to say to the planning commission. You coach him up, Tom. Coach him up, Tom. Give him a smack.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. All right.
You said no smack.
I did.
At this point, we will open it up to the public. I would ask those in favor of speaking of the proposal to come forward and identify themselves. Do we have anybody speaking in favor of the proposal to please come forward and identify themselves? One last time, anybody in favor to please come forward? All right. Anyone who is opposed to the preliminary and final plan as well as the modification of the ordinance, can they please come forward? And can you please state your name?
Hi there. My name is James Bonsall. I live here in Norwood. So I am speaking in opposition to changing the PUD ordinance for these parcels. Planning Commission has passed and Council has approved the current restrictions in place on the property, and they were in place before the current owners purchased the property. The restrictions are there because this is the exact opposite use we would want to see in a pedestrian-oriented neighborhood that we're trying to build and next to the bike trail. I've heard it mentioned I've heard it mentioned a couple of times, oh, nobody could have foreseen, what Wasson Way had become. But that's kind of ridiculous because it's a bike trail. It's exactly what bike trails are. And the only reason why this group was able to acquire the property is because the city of Cincinnati chose not to acquire the property when they were acquiring the right-of-way for the Wasson Way. So it was very obvious at the time that there was going to be a bike trail there. I've also, heard it said that potentially has there been misinformation given or not enough information. But again, this realty group, they're not new in the business. I mean, Norwood passing zoning ordinances to deal with the area in question is not new, and the ordinance was passed, again, prior to the property being purchased. So, we've made other economic development mistakes in the past, in my opinion. So we've demolished most of the pike, essentially, for economic development throughout the years. And we've allowed strip mall buildings around Wall Street instead of holding out for more office towers, and essentially that holds us back now because that's such prime real estate. That latter decision was realized as a mistake, and most of that area has now been rezoned to Central Business District. But let's realize that mistakes happen, and let's try to avoid the mistake that this could be. It's not fair to the residents on Lexington, and it's not fair to the community to have to deal with this for the next 30, 40, or 50 years. So there's some specific problems with I do not want to see the ordinance amended, but there are still specific problems. So the building should come up to Montgomery Road. It's required by the PUD ordinance, and it should be there. In my opinion, the parking lot should be required to have trees because we're essentially paving over. I mean, it looks like almost 3/4 of the lot is going to be parking lot, and it's going to be a major heat island. There is no sidewalk connection from Montgomery Road to the building, and I understand that not many people are going to walk to the property, but if we're talking about this being a pedestrian-oriented property, then there should definitely be a sidewalk there. And I think that gasoline tanks should be prohibited from the property as well. So if you're going to allow the recharging stations, I would not allow there to be any kind of underground gasoline tank or any kind of gasoline tank installed. And if the entrance on Montgomery Road can't be dealt with, it should be an entrance only, and then let everybody exit onto Lexington. But still, I think that we should not do that. We should keep it how it is. I think settling for what's in front of us is a fallacy. Again, Norwood residents are going to be dealing with this for way longer than any of us are going to be serving in any capacities at the city. I understand the Joseph Group has limitations and that the Volkswagen has limitations to what they require, but that's really not the city of Norwood's problem. Like, we're trying to develop a pedestrian-oriented community. We're trying to develop a nice community, and I don't think this fits in with the vision. I also know it's kind of obvious that just with some of the softball questions that have been asked, that potentially there's been some discussions behind the scenes before this, and I know that the Joseph Group is very influential politically. I know that they're big in politics, but I would just again like to say that we should take the politics out of this decision and make the best planning decision for the city of Norwood. You've been entrusted to that, and I ask that you please vote no to modify the requirements of the PUD. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak against the proposed plan unit development and amendment to the ordinance? Is there anyone else who would like to speak against the plan unit development and the amendments to the ordinance? Seeing none, may I have a motion with respect to the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Mr. Brown. Any discussion? Mr. Brown?
May I respond to Mr. Bonsall? Or is that?
I think we'll save that for our open meeting.
Okay.
Ms. Town, can you please call the roll?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes?
John Brown,
Yes.
Christopher Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger.
Yes.
Public hearing is
Public hearing is closed. We will move on to our regularly scheduled meeting of the October 7th, 2020 Planning Commission. We do have one new business item, that is the plan unit development and amendments to the ordinances, which we just heard in our public forum. At this point, what is the pleasure of the board?
I would make a motion that we amend 2A and 2E onto the request.
I would second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Mr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I don't see how this is political at all. It's not political. I've never had any discussions with these gentlemen. I've bought cars from Joseph family in the past. I don't know Mr. Joseph sitting here, so I don't know where politics comes into it. I was on the planning commission when this ordinance was passed, and to be honest with you, I don't know why it was passed. I'm sure it had something to do with the land that it's on. In my opinion, the land that's on now, that's there now, is a disgrace. It's been like that for 25 at least years that I know of. We've had railroad cars on there leaking. So, and I'm sure the neighbors would rather have something new and crisp rather than what is there right now. Pedestrian friendly, like their attorney stated, it's a automotive dealership. The world is going electric. You need charging stations. They're also going to need gasoline. Every car dealership that I would imagine, and I'm sure they have it right now at Joseph Volkswagen, they have a gas pump because they have to put gas in cars. I may be wrong, but again, I just wanted to let the public know that this is not political. I don't know if anybody on this board has been approached about that. Any incentive given to them? I have not. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak in open discussion?
Mr. Brown, just having been a lifelong city resident, Lexington Avenue is mostly rental. You've got Stones. Those houses are not in any way, shape, or form a house I would want to live in. A lot of Xavier students do. There's never been a sidewalk on the south side of that street, ever. There is one on the other side. We have streets in the city that have no sidewalks. It's a start, it's a plus, and, as I started this meeting, this ordinance, we had all these plats, and it said South Corp line. I think it's supposed to be very clear. But moving what was X-rail, and as Mr. Brown mentioned, used to leak UDF pellets all over, trains coming and going, I just don't see where this is a detriment to the city of Norwood. It's a plus because it could encourage other people to improve their property, especially on Lexington Avenue. I mean, we've had School Outfitters is down there. They have their trucks and their traffic. It might be some violation of a letter of some ordinance, but I think we can overcome that by looking at what the plus is for the city. Something better than the blight, as Mr. Brown said, has been there ever since X-Rail was there, Dana Coal Company was there, and nothing really in between. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in open discussion?
I might as well throw my 2 cents in. I absolutely appreciate Councilman Bonzel's comments and understand his desires in certain areas and certain aspects of this. I won't even talk to some of the other items that were said, but when I look at this, and I grew up right up the street, right down the street from this place. I went past it all the time. I agree with both the comments that were made about it being blighted. It was an eyesore. It's been a real just nothing. It's been nothing to the city for so many years. And the Joseph Group is looking at putting something in that I think is a major, major improvement. I understand that the Wasson Way Trail is there, and I applaud all the efforts, and I applaud that the trail is there, and I think it's going to have continued success, whether they put in a car dealership or whether they put in a hotel or a parking garage. I think the Wasson Way Trail will do fine, and I think they'll overcome the challenges with crossing Montgomery Road, much like they overcome the challenges with crossing other roads on the trail. So those parts don't worry me. What does worry me is we had something go out in front of council years ago, and it made it through the Planning Commission, and so there weren't council members that came to the Planning Commission to try to stop things at the Planning Commission level. They let it go to the city council, and at that point there was a big pushback, and they said, no, we absolutely do not want that type of facility in that building. And they didn't. They canceled it. They killed it, right? Council members killed it. They didn't like it, and we ended up with about 1,000 portalets sitting in the city of Norwood, and trucks driving all over the place with portalets hanging off the back of them. And that's what we ended up with. And that was a better deal. That was something that was better for the community, and council members killed it so that we could get that facility in here. And I'm not going to speak poorly about that organization, because they've been a great organization, but that's the chances that we take of turning down a development like this, because we might not end up with something that fits our community as well as this does in the next go around. And that's my concern. I think that we've got a good corporate citizen that is willing and has did things to try to improve the process, and they've been straightforward, very transparent with us. And I do think it should go to City Council. Let them take a look at it, and we'll move on from there. But I think it needs to be moved from, depending on the vote, but it could be moved from the Planning Commission. And I haven't had discussion with anybody about this. And quite frankly, haven't talked to the Joseph Group, haven't talked to anybody about this, although there might be people that think there's something going. That's not true. So, let's look at it from the right perspective and then move forward from there.
Thank you. Ms. Seconder, you're the...
I have nothing.
Okay. I'll say a couple words. One is I was intimately involved in the crafting of this ordinance. In the presentation to the Planning Commission back in 2014. And I can tell you why those uses were prohibited. This ordinance was crafted because we identified that 3-acre plus parcel as one of the prime development sites in the city of Norwood. We were aware at the time, even though it was in its infancy stage, that there was going to be a bike path or a potential for a bike path. And we wanted to harness that energy while taking at least some oversight in what was going to be built in one of the largest development parcels in the city. We were in the process, or had just finished, crafting a new zoning code which prohibited setbacks of 100 feet. If you look at our zoning code, they don't allow the 100-foot setbacks. They don't allow parking in the front of the building. It's designed to replicate and to reinforce the current built environment that we have here and create an environment that is pedestrian friendly in the true sense of the word, meaning buildings that enclose the street, active street uses with retail and apartments. The uses that you mentioned, the big box, the parking garages, those all were conditional uses that were subject to scrutiny and design guidelines to ensure that those uses would fit in with the neighborhood. This project doesn't. And if I look at the requirements of our PUD ordinance as to what I am to look at to consider in approving something, I have to look at 115.12A. A project shall be harmonious and in accordance with the general objectives of the city's comprehensive plan and/or zoning code. Unfortunately, we don't have a comprehensive plan, but there is plans in the work to do a plan for Montgomery Road. But this project is not harmonious. It is the only project that is set back 100 feet from the right-of-way. All the other projects, including the current Joseph Automobile dealership, is set on Montgomery Road. It's not harmonious with our zoning code because it completely does not comply with the ordinance which was passed in 2014. I do apologize for the Joseph group that no one identified this sooner. I don't know if this was oversight on the city, if it was oversight on the Joseph group, but this ordinance was in place 3 years before the property was purchased and nearly 6 years before your proposal. I will also note that even with the proposed amendments, the project does not comply with the ordinance because Section 3 of the ordinance specifically states that the placement of parking between any building or structure in the right-of-way on Montgomery Road is hereby prohibited. That's the language of the ordinance. This is the law that we have to follow in considering the proposal. In terms of whether or not the ordinance should be amended to allow this, I feel that the pedestrian-oriented nature of Montgomery Road, as evidenced by the new Xavier development, and hopefully will be continued in the future projects there on the plaza, this is going to stand out. This will stand out and say Norwood had a chance and had everything in place to ensure that something of a high quality was built, and they chose to not do it. So that is my perspective. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, may we call the vote?
What all are we voting on right now?
There's a motion by Mr. Schneider.
To add 2A and 2E.
Are you also, is that
Amended.
just 2A and 2E?
That was to amend 2A and 2E
Okay.
into it.
To amend the agenda for it to say, to include 2A and 2E,
Or are we amending their application?
your application.
Correct. It's to amend the application as requested.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I believe Mr. Brown said.
I did.
Okay. Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
John Murphy,
Yes.
John Brown,
Yes.
Christopher Brown,
No.
Jeannie Sickinger.
No.
And again, what's the pleasure of the board?
My recommendation, or my motion is to pass the request.
Do I have a second?
I'll
Yes.
second.
Second by Mr. Brown. I believe we kind of discussed. Does anybody want to go into further discussion on that?
I would like to outline the process from here if this passes at this time.
Certainly. Well, the process is that this will be referred to council. Ultimately, it's council's responsibility to take Plans Commission recommendation and either follow it or not follow it. The council will be referred by a letter saying our recommendation. They will set that for a public hearing. Anybody who is in favor or against may come to the public hearing and address council as to the proposal. But ultimately, it will be council's decision whether or not to allow this proposed plan unit development project, as well as to amend the ordinance that was passed in 2014.
Thank you. No more discussion?
No more discussion? Ms. Town, can you please call the vote?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
John Murphy,
Yes.
John Brown,
Yes.
Chris Brown,
No.
Jeannie Sickinger,
No.
Again, this will be going to council. If you want to speak in favor or against it, please attend the council meeting. Liking something on Facebook, posting on Facebook, sending it to Twitter, or other types of internet activity is not the same as coming to council to address this issue. Please come to council if you have an opinion on whether or not this project should go forward.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is communications and miscellaneous. The first item is a removed per phone call 9/24/2020 letter from T. Manning dated August 21st, 2020. Is that still on the agenda, Ms. Powell?
No, they removed it after the agenda had gone out originally.
Okay.
So I just amended the,
Very good. Okay, our next is a letter from Tyler Amicon, EI of Vioxx and Vioxx regarding U.S. playing card redevelopment, traffic concerns, received September 30th, 2020. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to allow them to speak.
We have a motion from Mr. Brown to allow them to speak in regards to this letter that was been presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
John, second.
Second by Mr. Murphy. Is there any need for discussion? Seeing none, can we please call the roll?
Mayor Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Both of you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. John,
Yes.
Mr. Chris Brown,
Yes.
Mrs. Sickinger.
Yes.
All right, we have given you the opportunity to speak to address council regarding your letter, or planning commission regarding the letter.
Hey everybody, nice to see you again. My name is Colleen Reynolds. I'm here on behalf of PLK Communities. Nick is sorry he can't be with you today. He's up in Claremont County at their Port Authority doing some fun, exciting work. So I'm here today with the team from Vioxx and Vioxx. With me is Justin Verst, John Girdler, and Tyler Amicon, the author of the letter. We're here, as promised, to talk all things traffic prior to our final PUD submittal. So we've done a couple counts, a lot of studies, and I'm going to let the experts do most of the talking today and present to you kind of where we're thinking in terms of traffic signals and stop signs and all the data as we move forward with the different phases of the former U.S. playing card site. So we're going to go through that first, and then I'll hop back up to help answer questions and talk through kind of what our next steps will be. But really, this is meant to be an open conversation and to walk through the presentation. So with that, introduce you to Justin.
All right, thank you. And while he's coming up, just a reminder, this is just for our education purposes only. We're not asked to make any decisions. We're just here to take in input so that, and offer suggestions so that when they do present their final plan, we can take into account the traffic aspect of it.
Right?
There again. The red light will go up.
There we go. Thank you. Again, my name is Justin Verst with Vioxx and Vioxx Engineering. Verst is V as in Victor, E-R-S-T. Vioxx and Vioxx is at 466 Erlanger Road in Erlanger, Kentucky. So I appreciate the time today. We'll try to keep it brief. I have a few slideshows. I'm not going to go through 100 slides, but I'm not going to dump a whole bunch of traffic numbers on you either. So I'm not the traffic engineer. I'm a civil engineer with Vioxx and Vioxx. John Girdler in the blue shirt behind me, he is our traffic engineer. If you want to get into the meat and numbers of traffic, you can ask him questions. I don't like the traffic, he loves it. So if you want to be bored by a ton of traffic numbers, John's got them all in his head. Tyler Amicon to my left here is our lead designer working on the project itself, the development project for PLK, for playing cards. So that's who we have here. You'll hear from me. They're here for questions if anyone wants to ask questions. So we're here just to kind of give you an update on where we are with our traffic analysis. We heard some comments from the preliminary PUD, and we want to let you know what we're working on, where we're trying to get to before we get to the final PUD submittal, which is anticipated for November 10th. So we've done some traffic counts at these 4 intersections, at Beach and Park, at Park and Forest, at Forest and Kenilworth, and at Beach and Robertson down here at the bottom. So to give a little bit of background, we all know that GM closed in 87, 89. Here's some traffic data we were able to pull off ODOT's website to kind of give you an idea of where traffic stands now versus 30 years ago. And these numbers are actually after GM was gone. I know it's kind of hard to see. But up here at Montgomery Road, a little bit far away from the site, but in 1990, which was, I guess, maybe 3 years after they closed down, traffic at that intersection, there was roughly 24,000 cars a day. In 2018, 30 years later, basically now, that traffic was down almost 8,000.
So just kind of giving you a comparison of where we are versus, around that time. So traffic in general in this area is down. I know it may not seem like it, but just kind of think about when all that was going on, the businesses that were still there in the late 80s, early 90s. These are the Odex traffic counts. Smith Road was similar. It's down a little bit. I think that was, I'm having trouble reading it, 12,000 to 8,700, so it's down about 3,000. I'm just kind of showing you that to give you a scale for once I show you how much traffic we're going to generate and what's around in the vicinity. So if you can read these numbers, the traffic basically at our front door, right in front of where US Playing Card clock tower is. Right now, the traffic counts we have there are about 2,800 cars per day. This 2022, that would be when we open up phase one, kind of the middle portion of the development. It's about 5,400, so we're looking at doubling the traffic that's right there at the front door right now, basically at Park and Beach. And then 2027 would be full build out when the whole complex is open and running. And that number there, 7,700, is about 3 times what the current traffic is now. Based on the traffic counts that we took at these intersections, our cameras picked up, most of that traffic cutting through there, I'm sure you're familiar with this, most of the traffic is there now since US Playing Card's not there, is cut through traffic that's coming up off of Robertson and going to Forest or back and forth. If you follow the cars on cameras, that's where they're going back and forth. There's not really any trip generation happening at the site. Some other numbers around there, at that Robertson Beach intersection, currently there's about 5,500 cars a day go through that intersection. So about 2,800 of those turn north and the rest are going the other directions. At Kenilworth and Forest, that's about 3,700 cars a day, so less than what's at Beach and Robertson. At Park and Forest, there's 6,800, so there's more there than there is down at Robertson and Beach where there used to be that signal. And then at right our front door again is 2,800 cars per day. Just to kind of give you a feel for what's moving around. That's sort of a dead corner there, but it's kind of a cut through. So we've gone through and we've analyzed, back up here a second. So we've analyzed these 4 intersections. We've looked at how the traffic patterns are moving, where everybody's turning now, and we tried to make projections as far as when we develop the US Playing Card site, where is all that traffic going to go? Is everybody going north-south, coming from north, south, east, west? Where is the traffic going to go? And I'll be honest, I'll call this presentation hot off the presses, but it's about a day old now, and it's a little bit old even at that, because we're still running the models. We're still trying to figure out where we think the traffic's going to move to. So the first intersection we'll talk about down here at Robertson Beach, where there used to be a signal. Depending on how we model where everybody's going to go, where they're going to come from, and if we consider the Nyer development over here on the other side of 71 that might pass some traffic through here, we're not quite sure yet. But we're looking at that traffic signal is, when we open up phase 1, it doesn't warrant a traffic signal. When we open up phase 2, it doesn't warrant a traffic signal, but it's starting to get close. It's heading that way. If we look at the background growth of the city, other redevelopments, more than likely within 20 years, there's going to need to be a signal there. That's what our projections are looking at right now. So talking this through with PLK, what we propose is to put a signal here at Robertson and Beach. And their opinion was, if it's going to be needed 20 years down the road, let's put it in right now. So that's where we stand with that intersection. We go look at Kenilworth and Forest. We know that right now it's not stop restricted on Forest, and any trucks coming in and out of this site obviously can't use Park, so they're going to use Kenilworth. And so any trucks that come south on Forest are going to have to make a left turn here, with the traffic that would be moving north through here, traffic coming in from the south, coming from Smith, that wants to get up to Park. There's going to be more traffic on Kenilworth, or more traffic on Forest in this area, so we feel like stop signs on Forest are warranted there so that vehicles, delivery trucks can get in and out of Kenilworth to get into the site, so we don't encourage them to go down Park because they can't get into Kenilworth because there's too much traffic just going north and south. So our recommendation is to put stop signs on Forest at Kenilworth. Now we kind of want to see how they operate because it is pretty close from Kenilworth to Park. That spacing's a little bit close. We're a little concerned that the stop signs on Forest at Kenilworth might, at peak times, back up the traffic a little bit at Park. So we want to reevaluate that after we get phase 1 of the development open, the first half open. Our recommendation to PLK is that we go do another analysis, review that intersection again, and make sure those stop signs are working properly. So moving up to, oops, where I go? Park and Forest, wrong way. Park and Forest, this is where I said, hot off the presses, things are changing it as we go. The way our model was as of yesterday, the way we had the trips spread out, we were looking at a signal down here at Beach and Robertson, and it didn't quite warrant a signal up here at Park and Forest. We've been running more modeling, we've been moving traffic around where do we think people are going to come from for this development, which if anybody knows anything about traffic engineering, there's a little bit of guessing there. Where's all your people, where are your people going to come from? So other models we've run indicated that this may need to be a signal. If we run more of the traffic through here, if we think a lot of traffic is going to go north and south on Forest, which I think it's going to, that draws traffic away from this signal, and this end up doesn't justify a signal down there at Beach and Robertson, depending on which way we're moving the traffic around. We played around with Nair's development and anticipated some of that traffic coming through to our development. The more we've got looking at Nair's plans over here, we're not sure that there's really going to be a whole lot of traffic between that development and US Playing Card. So we might have overestimated how much cross traffic we'd have there. So I guess my short story between these two intersections, Robertson and Beach, Park and Forest, we're going to need at least one signal. For sure we're going to need a signal. And one or the other. Yesterday I would have told you we were leaning towards it's probably going to end up at Robertson. Like I said, we're still running the models. I think, I'm not the traffic guy, but going through his models, it seems to me like we're going to end up with a signal at Park and Forest most likely. And probably not need one at Robertson and Beach, but my recommendation would be to PLK is that we don't know what we don't know. We don't know where everybody's really going to go. We feel like it would be prudent to finish our analysis now, pick out the most likely candidate for the signal, which I think is probably going to be Park and Forest. Go ahead and commit to putting that signal in, get it operational, get the first phase of the development open, let the traffic settle in for about 6 months, and then have us go back out and redo the traffic analysis to see how that signal's working at Park and Forest, how much traffic is really coming through Beach in Robertson. Is there any traffic coming from the east there, or is everybody coming off the lateral? Is everybody going off Smith Road? So my gut tells me that we're going to end up with a signal at Park and Forest. We're not going to end up with one at Robertson and Beach, but right now we know we're going to need a signal, at least one signal, depending on where our traffic goes. We may need two, but my recommendation at PLK is go ahead and put the first signal in now. We know we're going to need it. And then after we get the first phase of development open, PLK make a commitment that they will come back, reanalyze the traffic, and if that signal is warranted at the second intersection, that PLK put it in. But I hate to put two signals in right now and not need them and have two signals to maintain and operate, and the cost of installation if it's not really needed. And so that's what we're struggling with is where is our traffic going to come from? And like I said, this thing's probably a day out of date now. I think we're going to end up at Park and Forest. We're working to have all that modeling completed, the traffic work done before we submit on November 10th. But we want to kind of give you an update on where we are right now. To the intersection right at our front door at Park and Beach, the most difficult thing there is just the geometry of having the nice wide boulevard of Park coming right into our front door, and how do you manage that spacing related to our development. So we're working through final designs. I know this is really hard to see at this scale, but this would be the front door. This over here on the left, this would be Park going westbound, Park going eastbound. This would be Beach north and south. The clock tower is right over here on the edge, kind of clipped off. This would be the face of the clock tower. So this is the current design we're working on right now, which has the main road coming through right here, lining up with the northern lane of Park, which would be the westbound lane. And then lining up with the southbound lane, we would have a drop-off loop. So if you're coming in from Park, we think a lot of our traffic is going to be, you can pull in and drop off here. You can pull one out going into the development. You can turn out here and go back into the parking garage. This north leg of Beach would be the access to the parking garage. So we're working on designing that, kind of seeing that as sort of internal to our development. We got to make sure we design our development properly, that intersection works for the development. So that's kind of that's where we are. That's without getting into a whole bunch of traffic numbers that I don't like talking about because they're confusing to me too. That's where the traffic study's headed, and that's where we're looking to finish up and have those hard answers for you by November 10th. So this meeting was for us to kind of toss out where we are, get some more feedback if anybody has any any questions about anything. I know one question I would have for the planning commission or the city council would be, Wesley Avenue would be a prime connection, if that could ever be connected to Floral Avenue. That would help relieve some more of the traffic, provide some more movement through there. The way it's set up now with that cul-de-sac up there, and I think there's a gate here even, it's not really set up for that connection, but I was just kind of curious if there have been any discussions about that ever connecting to Floral so that traffic could come in from that side. If you're coming eastbound on the lateral, to come in that way to get on Park. So that's not something we're really recommending be done. It's just one of those things that if that was ever in the works, or if you guys had ever had any conversations about that, it'd be nice for us to know so we could look at what impacts that might have if it ever were to happen.
No. I mean, that gate's there for a reason. There's a lot of reasons why it's not open.
Okay. But when we did our modeling, we didn't assume any traffic through there. We were just kind of looking at that as could potentially provide another venue for traffic to get in from eastbound on the lateral instead of making the loop back around. So.
The city administration would like to request that you provide information to us well before you present it again, or present it as your final information, so that we can have our people take a closer look at it and get into some of the numbers and really help us understand it a little more closely. So
yeah, that's no problem.
Can you go back to the drop-off loop? So what was currently there in your preliminary plan? Can you help refresh? Was that a park space or a building? I can't remember.
So there was a building that was right up there.
I have to sneak out.
Tyler,
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes.
If we're not voting on anything, I'm going to need to be excused. I just received a...
Certainly.
Me too. I didn't receive a call, I just got to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back.
And we'll keep it relatively short.
Yeah, so in the preliminary PUD plan, the clock tower is obviously in the same spot. It's not going to move. There was a retail building right here. So this drop-off loop was not there.
Mm-hmm.
And then this entrance still remained the same. So they're adding in that kind of drop-off loop to help with that, the difficulty of the geometry of that entrance there.
And what is your proposal in the little island there of the drop-off loop?
That's still being determined. I think they're looking at some nice landscaping, maybe a water feature or something. That is changing daily.
Okay.
Yeah, so the main reason that other building went away and the traffic loop is there is trying to make sure that the traffic flows through here. We don't want to end up in a situation where we have a stop sign up here and the traffic lines up, 3 or 4 cars back, and then somebody coming eastbound on Park can't get in because the traffic's backed up. So we're still working on this. This is, like we said, we moved the building around, took that little building off and put this drop-off area in, trying to work on the traffic. So that's still under development, but we will have it all nailed down before the submittal on the 10th.
Yeah, I think our goal for today, on behalf of PLK, was to just say that we're fully committed to at least one signal, if not more. Kind of reviewing the data. Nothing told us to do one immediately, but we heard you guys loud and clear, and council loud and clear, that it's a huge priority is getting this right from the very beginning, even the way we're phasing it. So we know for sure we're going to do one, maybe more, add those stop signs in, and just kind of try to get this right as we move forward. So that's just on behalf of PLK that we're ready to do this. Even though we're going back and forth on where the signal should be, we'll definitely have one, if not 2. So
Right.
just so you guys know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any other questions? No. All right. Thank you for presenting. We'll move on to excuse the absent members who had to leave early. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we excuse the absent members.
Motion by Mr. Murphy. Do I hear a second?
Second it.
Second by Ms. Sickinger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Murphy. Any second?
Second by me.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. This concludes the October 7th, 2020 Planning Commission.